Hey, what's up guys, Jed here. Is intermittent fasting a healthy way to lose weight fast? Good question, let's talk about it. But before we get into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you stay up to date whenever I post a new video. Right, so in case you guys aren't familiar with what intermittent fasting is, it's basically just a form of eating. It's basically just something that tells you when to eat and when not to eat. So first let's talk about why people think that intermittent fasting is unhealthy. I think the root of where that comes from is mainly from people hearing what other people say. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like if a doctor told you that intermittent fasting wasn't healthy, you'd automatically believe it's not healthy, right? Because I remember when I first discovered intermittent fasting, the first thing someone told me was that it's probably not a good idea because I might develop an ulcer, right? Which can happen if you go long periods without eating. At least that's what I was told. Please do correct me if I'm wrong about the whole ulcer thing. That's just something I heard. I never really did any research of it. But anyway, that's what I was told when I first discovered intermittent fasting, and so when I had that thought in my head, I was like, now I'm a little bit unsure about starting this, because it seems easy, which it is, but the fact that someone told me this might happen to me, I didn't want to start it. I don't want to do intermittent fasting. And this doesn't have to be just that thought alone, this can be anything, someone can tell you, it might give you problems with your kidneys or, your lungs, I don't know, anything you can think of. But just sort of a word of advice, whenever you hear people say that, I feel like these are people who really haven't tried intermittent fasting, right? Because the way I think about it is you have to sort of base it off sort of the results of other people, right? Because I haven't heard anything negative, right? For all these years that I've been doing intermittent fasting, I haven't had any sort of negative feedback in regards to intermittent fasting, right? I've never heard anyone tell me that, oh, it was painful. I've never heard anyone tell me that, oh, it made, this pre-existing health problem I had worse, so far, which, is another thought. If you already have a health problem, then of course, perhaps doing intermittent fasting probably wouldn't be the best idea. So that's why you have to use a little bit of common sense when deciding to do intermittent fasting. If you're someone who can't go long periods without eating because of a health condition, then of course you probably shouldn't do intermittent fasting. If you are someone who's relatively young, you shouldn't even try to consider intermittent fasting. If you're someone who's very, very skinny, obviously you don't want to do intermittent fasting. So those are just a couple of reasons why people, might tend to think that intermittent fasting has a bad reputation. So just keep that in mind. But now I want to sort of talk about why I think it's healthy, right? The number one thing I tell people to think about when deciding whether or not intermittent fasting is healthy or unhealthy, you need to look at what your diet looks like right now. If you're someone who eats junk food, if you're someone who always eats fast food every single day for every single meal, if you're someone who's always snacking on candies, if you're someone who's always sticking your hand in the bag of chips without even, counting your calories, then of course, obviously, intermittent fasting is going to be unhealthy, at least in your eyes, because you didn't even take the time to sort of examine yourself and be like, oh, maybe intermittent fasting is good, but my habits are bad. So once you've given that some thought, then you can go ahead and re-ask yourself the question, is intermittent fasting healthy? And for me, yes, it is. And I also think that it can help correct your unhealthy habits, right? And I can guarantee you that a majority of people that are considering intermittent fasting are already unhealthy in the first place, so definitely doing intermittent fasting is going to help you correct those habits and make you healthier. So in my opinion, intermittent fasting is indeed healthy. You guys kind of have to change the way you think about it, right? Because it doesn't have to be just intermittent fasting. That could be keto, that could be juicing, that could be, any other diet that you hear about out there. All of them can be unhealthy, right? If you don't know what you're doing and you're not willing to change your bad habits. You know what I mean? I don't have to be a doctor to give you this advice, right? As a matter of fact, a lot of people refer to doctors in order to correct their bad habits. Just FYI, I lost the weight that I needed to lose, and I didn't even talk to a doctor. right? They gave me the advice, but their advice was bad, right? And the funny thing about that is that the people that gave me advice, which were doctors, by the way, were overweight, you know, which is such a crazy thought, right? And try not to be offended by that thought. I'm just telling the truth, you know? Every person, every doctor I've seen that thinks they know what they're talking about, at least in terms of weight loss, really has no idea what they're talking about, right? But yeah, to sort of recap, the only time I think intermittent fasting would be unhealthy is if you're someone who's skinny and trying to do intermittent fasting. That just doesn't make any sense. You know, you're skinny, why are you trying to lose weight? It's time to start gaining weight. Plus, I don't think it's for kids, you know, obviously. And lastly, if you already have a pre-existing health condition, then most definitely it's probably not a good idea to consider doing intermittent fasting. That can wait. So going back to our question, is intermittent fasting a healthy way to lose weight fast? Yes, it 100% is a good way to lose weight fast. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about that. If you guys are interested in learning more about weight loss and intermittent fasting, be sure to check out my last video where I talk about if lemon water breaks a fast. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and tap that notification bell so that you never miss out on any future videos. Also, don't forget to leave a like and comment down below letting me know, is intermittent fasting healthy or unhealthy? And with that said, I will see you guys next time.